Is Bitcoin in trouble? And will the stock market finally have some relief to the downside? Or this is just another liquidity grab in order to continue move all the way to the all-time highs? Well, stay tuned because in this video I have many interesting information coming your way. Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Dan and as always I'm bringing you the best weekly analysis for both crypto and stocks, and I'll be going over many macro environment, technical analysis, news for crypto, stocks and everything, and I'm going to give you my personal opinion and thoughts on what I do think is going to happen in the market and how you can take the benefit out of it in a financial way, of course. So without further ado, let's head into the PC right away, and of course as always we're going to start with Nasdaq 100 technical analysis. I know for the new guys, for the old people who are following me, they know I have all these lines drawn on the chart, but don't worry, I'm gonna remove some. It's not gonna be that confusing, and let me just show you right away. So when I remove all these beautiful lines, what do we see here? Finally, we see a red week for Nasdaq 100, and it's not only a red week. We see this beautiful wick on a weekly chart, right? This wick represents basically a reversal candle, so that means that finally we might see us going down and break the previous levels and have some relief in the rally for Nasdaq 100. If not, this might be only a liquidity accumulation, and I'm gonna explain what that means. So that means that, of course, you cannot just go all the way up in a straight line. You cannot just continue going up. You can, as you can see from the beginning of the 2023 on Nasdaq, you literally went almost in a straight line. But in order to continue the momentum, to continue the moves, you need some liquidity. You need new money, right? And these kind of red weeks are basically just like accumulation and liquidation of some other players in the industry in order to catch the momentum for the move to the upside, or to the move to for the move to the downside. But this in this case scenario, it would be a liquidation grab until here to catch some liquidity, okay, to set, let's say 14,600, just so we can continue all the way higher to new all-time highs, 16,000 and above. Let me hide the lines again, I don't like them, to be honest. They're too confusing on a weekly chart. What does this mean? It's either, of course, going to up or down, but it's either, if it continues going down, it's going to grab some liquidity, break these previous levels over here, which means that a lot of people actually have a stop loss over here in this level. Let's say around 14,900 or 14,800. So right over here, a lot of people have their stop losses. And if we break below their stop losses, that means we're gonna grab the liquidity from there. We're gonna catch all their money, okay, just to continue and pump to the upside. Now, this is one case scenario, okay, what can happen? So liquidity grab in order to continue the momentum to the upside. Now, I do not think that will happen. Why? Well, I spoke about it before. We only had a huge rally from the beginning of January 2023. We went up, let's say again one more time, in 2023 about 45%, okay, which is a little bit too much. It's a little bit too much in the environment that we are in. I'm talking about it every single video. So rate hikes, economic global happenings, war, etc. So it's a little bit overextended. Now, what I do think is going to happen is something like this. We're gonna go down to, let's say, around 14,600, grab some liquidity, make a fake pump to the upside for buyers to get trapped, okay, to around back 15,000 or so, and then boom, we're just gonna continue down back to 14,200 or so. So this is the move that I think will play out. That we're gonna go continue down this next week, break all the way to 14,700, come back up to grab some liquidity for the sell side, which is called sell side liquidity, okay, back to 15,000, just to continue momentum to the downside to finally reach somewhere around 14,200. Now, are we gonna go lower from 14,200 or higher? I don't know. My personal target in the next 6 months or so is 14,200 on Nasdaq, okay? Now, maybe not 6 months, maybe that's a little too over exaggerated, but let's say 3-4 months, something like that. Let's see. If, again, we're going to play the bullish scenario, I still believe that from here, we don't have enough momentum and liquidity to go back to break 16,000. However, we saw on Nasdaq that nothing absolutely is impossible. Nasdaq has been a beast from the beginning of the 2023. It's just unstoppable, and we broke everything that we could break. The only thing that we didn't broke is the all-time highs. Now, again, we can break all-time highs. I told you what the reasons are. The reasons are good earnings report and some other good news, right? Like good macro environment is the reason that where we could break all-time highs. So will that happen? I don't know, but is it possible? Of course it's possible. We literally we went to 16,067 and the all-time highs was 700 points above, okay? So we just need to close another 700 points gap. It's not that easy to do without really good news, but is it possible? Of course. So what we could do if we're about to go to all-time highs is grab some liquidity just over here in this area, 15,200, just to continue the momentum all the way up. So yeah, that's also a possibility. So option number one, what I think is going to happen, just to recap it, is we're gonna go back to 14,600, go grab some liquidity at around 15,000 and continue the momentum to 14,200. This is my scenario number one. Scenario number two, go back, grab some liquidity over here at around 15,200 and then just continue with the momentum all the way to all-time highs. Okay, so these are the two possible options that I see happening. Now let's zoom in on the daily chart. On the daily chart, as I showed you in the previous video, we had this beautiful bearish divergence, okay? Bearish divergence, which actually played out because this is the move that happened. It went down, right? Now on a 4-hour chart, what do we have? Let's just see if we have any signals. On the 4-hour chart, nothing really much happening. A small bullish divergence on RSI only, but this is one indicator. Now on 1-hour chart, what do we have on 1-hour chart? Now on 1-hour chart, we have a different situation. On 1-hour chart, we have a bullish divergence, okay, which tells us that this area over here is a good area to buy a small pullback. So basically what do we expect to happen is something like this. We buy over here, we go over here to retest, and then boom, continue all the way down. So this is a play that I'm going to be looking at next week. So something like, let's say, a pullback to here, and then just something like this, retest and go finally end up at around 15,400. So this would be my plan as well for the next week. So just to give you a concrete example is, I do expect to have a small pullback to the upside, because this will be for the expectations for the FOMC meeting, expectations for all the earnings report that we're gonna have, which I'm gonna talk about later. So before all this happens on Monday, I do expect a little bit of a pump, maybe not even this high, maybe we're just gonna reach somewhere right over here, let's say to 15,600, but I do expect a little bit of a pump, then consolidate in this area and finally break down to the downside. So this is my game plan for next week on Nasdaq 100. Now let's move on to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin didn't really have a good week. Actually didn't have a good couple of weeks. Even though we had great news, now it's actually, Bitcoin is doing totally opposite. I'm gonna explain what I mean by that. When we had super bad news, when we had only bad news, what was Bitcoin doing? Slowly building up from 15K to 32K. We were just going up slowly, right? It wasn't actually going up only. You see, we had this bad news as well, and bad weeks, but we're generally building up, okay? And we had only FUD, only bad news. Now, when we finally have some good news, what is Bitcoin doing? Bitcoin is actually doing nothing. It's just creating these huge wicks that actually, I don't like to see this, guys. This is what I don't like to see. These huge bounces off, okay, of this level. This wicks means that here the selling pressure is humongous, is insane, right? So I really don't like to see these big wicks because they indicate us that we're gonna continue move to the downside. Now, is this the end of the world even if we continue to move to the downside? Of course it's not. Sorry. Of course it's not the end of the world. What I spoke about in the previous video, and as I've told you, you need to follow, is that my personal opinion is that if we break down to the downside, it's just going to be somewhere, let's say to around 28,000. So we grab some liquidity, we liquidate a lot of the longs over here in the 28,000 area just to propel us back higher, okay? And my opinion, once again, is that once we grab some liquidity, let's say to 28,000 area, the next stop will be 40,000. I don't think we're gonna stop at 32K. I really do think we're gonna go to 40,000. So there's nothing here in the middle that stops us from going to 40K, in my opinion. So what I would suggest to myself, because I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not advising you to do anything. You are your own personal investor, and you make your own personal choices. So this is just my own opinion, that I am going to be accumulating in this area over here. So from now 29,000 to, let's say, 28,000. Actually it will be this area right over here. So at around 28,000 I would be buying. If, however, we decided to break all the way down, I believe that the final stop for us would be somewhere at around this area, 25,000. I definitely don't see us going lower than 25,000 just to continue our momentum to the upside. So now it all depends on how big of a liquidity grab we're gonna have. Are we gonna have a small liquidity grab to up to 28,000 to continue higher, or are we gonna have a big liquidity grab to up to 25,000 to continue higher? So as I already told you, this is my final defense line at around 25,000, and I don't believe we're gonna go lower than that. Let's look at the indicators. On our side, we do have this bearish divergence, which actually kind of is playing out. MACD as well is showing us some mini bearish divergence. Let's just see on a daily chart what is happening. On a daily chart, nothing as well. We had a little bit of bearish divergence, but now it's just, look at this. This to me, guys, actually now when I'm looking at it on a daily chart, this to me looks bullish. This is a bullish accumulation, if you ask me personally. So I really do believe that from this this point, let me just remove this. That from this point over here, we're going to do maybe one final liquidity grab just to propel us to the upside. Like, this looks bullish to me, honestly, looks really bullish. Now, of course, we need some good news to send us higher. We need something better, because Bitcoin ETF just wasn't enough, right? Okay, now we ended up with the technical analysis. We're gonna move to some news, and as always, we start with the economic calendar. Economic calendar for next week is super important, guys. You have to remember, price action and everything moves with the macro environment. Technical analysis just gives us the entry points. The chart is telling you story, right? You need to listen carefully for that story. The chart, the technical point of view, the technical analysis is to give you the best entry points, okay? Now, the macro environment is telling you a bigger picture, but it doesn't give you entry points. Even though Fed makes some kind of decision or whatever happens, it doesn't have to be that the chart will react right away instantly in the direction that you want. You need to let the dust settle down, let the big players do their thing, buy or sell, and then you go looking at the technical analysis and enter at the best points, okay? Now, let's have a look at the Monday. There's nothing big happening on Monday. That's why I do expect on Monday that we have a pump. On Tuesday, what do we have? We have CB consumer confidence, okay? Tuesday as well, nothing too crazy. So Tuesday probably is going to be some range range or pump way. And then Wednesday is going to be super important. Wednesday is the most important date, so 26th of July. Wednesday, we have, okay, building permits, new home sales. We're going to know what's happening with the housing market. Crude oil inventories, not really, we don't care. And then we have in the evening, Fed interest rate decision. Fed are having a live meeting this month, okay, on Wednesday 26th, and they are expected to bring another rate hike of 25 BPS, and we're gonna be sitting at around 5.5% interest rate, which is actually insane, okay? And to be honest, everybody wants to hear guidance, which is going to be the most important thing. Guidance, guidance, guidance. You don't want to see only the decision, because as I told you, what happened last time? Last time, the guidance was super bearish. Now, what I do think, and the market, by the way, yeah, market still continue going up. So guidance was super bearish, market still continue going back up, because People don't trust the Fed anymore. Now, what I want to see in order to break down, and let's just go back to the chart real quick. So in order to continue this bearish momentum to the downside, we need to see very bearish guidance confirmed by the Fed, okay? We need to see Fed being very bearish again. And if they say we're hiking the rate to another 25 BPS, which they will most probably do, but actually we changed our mind about the second rate hike because they said in the last meeting that they're gonna have 2 more. So this will be the first one, and they expect another one to happen, which will bring us at around 5.75 interest rate. However, if they say, you know, we assess the situation, inflation is cooling down, blah, 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 maybe this second rate hike is optional. Market is gonna go wild. So definitely we're gonna break all-time highs. Because what does that mean? That means to the market, pivot is very close. They're gonna pivot soon. That's it. Bull market confirmed. Send it, right? So this is how the market looks at it. But if they continue saying, we are gonna have definitely another rate hike after this, so 5.75. If they say something like that, and if they say, as the Chair Powell said in the previous meeting, if he says, we're definitely not thinking about cutting rates, maybe for another year or so, because he said it. He said we don't even know when we're gonna start the reversal process, the quantitative easing. So we have quantitative tightening. Tightening we are now, the period of tightening. So economy moves in cycles. Quantitative easing, quantitative tightening. So the easing part is when they are cutting rates, inflation is going lower, they're boosting the economy, everything grows, right? It's a growth period. Tightening is when they increase the rate hikes, okay? And they drain the liquidity and they drain the money out of the economy in order, of course, to boost it for later on to make it stronger, right? So we're now still in the quantitative tightening period, right? So when are we going to pivot to quantitative easing? He said, Chair Powell, he said, we don't know, maybe not even in a year, but nobody believes them because Fed changed their mind so many times and gave so many false signals and news that nobody believes them anymore. However, listen to the guidance, listen to what they have to say, very important. Now on Thursday, after that is just going to be a confirmation day. We have core durable orders, GDP, second report I believe, and then we have initial jobless claims, as always, pending house sales. So Thursday is going to be a big day, and then Friday we are having core PCE index, and we have some employment stuff going on, PC price index. So that's about it. So basically Wednesday, Thursday and Friday all have some important news that you need to follow, and probably is going to be very volatile. Now, just let me go on to some earnings calendar. All this, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever we have or don't have some news, is going to be also additionally boosted. So the volatility will be very high. It's going to be additionally boosted by earnings calendar. We're in earnings season, and earnings season started quite bad. I'm going to talk about it later. It was expected to be bad, but it started a little bit worse than expected for some companies. Now, Monday, as you can see, nothing too crazy that I can see here. Now, Tuesday, look at Tuesday. Microsoft, Google, Visa, and all these big players. So Tuesday is going to be a hell of a day. We don't have reports, economic reports, but we do have, after closing, these giants reporting. And if they have bad reports, Nasdaq is going to sink, continue to sink, right? Now, Wednesday, we have Meta, Coca-Cola, etc. So Wednesday, another big day. And to combine it, Meta earnings report on that's going to affect Nasdaq, combine it with the Fed interest rate decision. So this is going to be a huge volatility day. On Thursday, we have Amazon, MasterCard, etc. So another big day. And on Friday, this is oil companies, etc., energy companies. So not really, we don't really care about it. Now, market rally, we're moving to some stock market news. Market rally faces key test next week as FOMC earnings loom large. So Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta, and Amazon reporting next week, with Apple scheduled the following week. Revenue growth guidance updates will be the next test for the ongoing market rally. Here's what to watch for when Big 5 mega cap tech stocks release their upcoming results. So now he goes over to talk about what's expected from them year on year, these big guys, how they perform, blah, blah, blah. So this is just an analysis. But basically, we need to pay attention to these big companies that are reporting their earnings report, and don't stay in the position for too long. Don't trade the news, never trade the news. Wait, let it play out. Let the market makers do whatever they want and guide you in the direction that they want to go, and you just follow them. So just to say another title, Nasdaq 100 special rebalancing will hurt returns. So what happened with Nasdaq 100? Basically, Nasdaq 100 is an index that contains 100 different companies, 100 biggest tech companies, and it is very diversified, and it should be considered as a growth tech index, right? That you want to invest in, but it is very diversified because it has 100 companies in it, so it should be kind of technically safe when one company fails or whatever. But what happened is these biggest companies now account for 55% of Nasdaq 100 index because they're so big. Their market cap is so big that they're actually taking 55% of Nasdaq 100 index. So Nasdaq said, listen, basically our whole index is moved by 7 companies, right? So we need to rebalance it because it's a too big of a risk. So it's not Nasdaq 7, it's a Nasdaq 100. They all need to be equally distributed. Not all of them, of course, some of them can be, but I believe that if they said something here that one single position should not be, I think, more than 20% of the index or something like that. Anyways, the bottom line is, what does this mean? This means that actually the special rebalancing, they want to rebalance it, right? Rebalance it, and then it will hurt the returns because they want to reduce the exposure to these big companies, right? So you want smaller companies as well to grow, because everybody's just investing in these 7 companies. They're taking too big of a chunk on Nasdaq, so it's no longer Nasdaq 100, it's a Nasdaq 7, right? So they will rebalance it, and it should impact Nasdaq in a little bit of a negative way because these 7 companies are the sole creditors who actually carried Nasdaq from the beginning of the years, and they're the only ones who actually carried the gains, most of the gains throughout the 2023, and most probably this rebalancing and will drag down the Nasdaq performance of 43%. Tesla shares take a hit despite strong Q2. Basically what happened with Tesla was they had a earnings report, them and Netflix. Those are the first big the tech companies that reported the earnings report, and actually the earnings report itself was good, it wasn't bad, but the shares plunged 10% or more, I think. Also Netflix plunged as well, but Tesla shares plunged because, let me just read it right over here, as the company disclosed its intention to implement upgrades that they said could lead to a slowdown in production during the 3rd quarter. So basically they're upgrading their factories so they could eventually produce more, but of course it will result in a slowdown in production during the 3rd quarter. And of course, market being market, whenever you say slowdown, growth company slowdown, oh my god, sell, right? Nothing. Tesla will, be fine. It will be totally fine. They're actually doing quite well. Now, let's move on to some crypto news. I want to talk about some crypto news because crypto had some good news, but nothing was going on in the markets. Ripple won the case. Huge win for crypto. Congrats, Ripple. But we went down, right? We went down. What happened? Why was the rally not continued? Well, of course, because of the insecurities, and that was one news. But then Chair Gensler says SEC reaction to Ripple decision is mixed, still under consideration. So they want to appeal. Gary Gensler said he was disappointed by the judge's decision, blah blah blah, and hinted that it might appeal the decision. If we have the appeal of the decision, this is the reaction. You get this bad news to the downside, right? That is actually reflecting in the chart at the moment. Bipartisan bill to regulate DeFi, crypto security risks introduced into US Senate. Altcoins bled as Bitcoin gained dominance in Q2. Multiple spot crypto ETF applications go to Federal Register in step towards SEC approval. So basically, all these all these ETF, Bitcoin ETF funds were actually acknowledged by the SEC. Great step, amazing. And now Robert F. Kennedy Jr. vows to back US dollar with Bitcoin if elected president. Democratic presidential candidate Kennedy Jr. has promised to progressively back the United States dollars with Bitcoin if elected president. He had this bold statement, right? And I mean, he's not gonna be elected. I don't think he has a chance. Maybe he has. I don't know. Everybody has a chance in this world, right? But this would be, this would launch Bitcoin into stratosphere. If this would actually happen, if he actually would get selected as a president, if he actually did do this, Bitcoin would be going to unimaginable highs. That's just as simple as that. Now, let me just give you a reminder, and I'm gonna keep reminding you what could be a possible catalyst for the downside to reach maybe that 25,000 that I was telling you about. Catalyst would be appeal of the SEC to the XRP case decision. Mt. Gox repayment date is looming. Is Bitcoin in trouble? Did you forget about Mt. Gox? I didn't. All these things can happen in the same time, and usually how matrix attacks is coordinated. So appeal decision for the XRP case, Mt. Gox repayment date. This happens in October, right? You can have these two combined together with what? US government just sold another 8,000 Bitcoin linked to Silk Road. As of now, US government has 195,000 Bitcoin left in its possession. So they can continue aggressively selling out, Mt. Gox repayment, and then XRP again suing with the SEC. Plus, God forbid if something happens to the Bitcoin ETF spot again, like it will be just creating a big push to the downside for Bitcoin. So you have to keep all these things in mind, okay? When thinking about crypto, what could possibly go wrong and what could go right. Of course, we had some things going into the right direction. The good things and the positive things would be, of course, Bitcoin ETF spots finally approved. Now, my personal opinion, what could happen is this 195,000 of BTC that the government has. If Bitcoin ETF gets approved for BlackRock, what do you think? What do they need for Bitcoin ETF to run the Bitcoin ETF? They need Bitcoin. Who can sell them Bitcoin? Who has 195,000 Bitcoin in their holdings? Oh wow, US government, they're best friends. Seriously? Wow, what a coincidence. Government is selling out like 8,000 Bitcoin, whatever, from time to time. If they wanted to sell their Bitcoin, they would have done it way more aggressively. They will most probably, this is just my personal opinion and my, call it whatever you want, thesis, they will sell it to BlackRock, Vanguard, or whatever, this 195 billion worth of Bitcoin once the ETF spot ETF gets approved. They will sell it to them, you know, and then they will continue aggressively buying it, and the Bitcoin will go to 120, 130, 150k, 200,000. We're gonna all be rich, we're gonna all make money. And with this, I want to end this video and thank you for watching. And of course, if you like it, like, subscribe, and put some comments down in the section if you want me to comment on anything else, if you want to hear some other opinions about anything else. And that will be it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.